Welcome to the Church.digital podcast. Through this podcast, we'll talk about the technological innovations within the church. But more than tech for tech itself, we'll address deeper questions. Is disciple making possible digitally? How should we approach the digital mission field? Can a biblically grounded church operate in digital space? Oh, and where does the metaverse and artificial intelligence fit into all of this? Whether you're a big or small church, the Church.digital's goal is to help churches like yours learn to be a multiplying church, digitally and physically. And now here's your host, Jeff Reed.
Welcome to the Church.digital podcast. We're doing a live stream recording here. This is episode 332. We've got Pastor Alina and Pastor Coco from VRMMO Church off screen here for just a minute. They're anxious to go. They're excited about the conversation. They're a little nervous. Maybe feeling a little bit towards this. And so now they're embarrassed that I said that they were feeling a little nervous, but it's going to be a really good conversation digging into is the metaverse dead? You know, I keep hearing rumors of its demise, yet I still see it thriving and growing. So a good conversation from really one of the premier churches operating right now in virtual reality, VRMMO Church. So looking forward to getting that conversation here in a little bit. Heading into it though, hey, we got a conference coming up right around the corner, Digital Missionary Conference, and super excited about it. I literally, it's been last minute details. We are 7 days and like 8 hours or something away from this thing being a reality. It's kicking off Wednesday, April 2nd, 11 a.m. Eastern. And so 11 keynotes, 30 some breakouts, and the breakouts keep coming in, like seriously, still getting signups and people that want to be part of this thing. I just checked registration. We are close to 700 registered. Get this, from 73 countries. There are 73 countries represented in the breakouts, or excuse me, in the registered people so far. The 700 people registered, and so super excited about this. More information, you can see it there on the screen. Does anybody else have that problem? It's always wrong hand backwards. Missionary.digital, www.missionary.digital to register for that. We got a lot of people hanging out in chat with us. Flat Cap, let's go. Steve Reed, brother from another mother, beat me. Flat Cap got first. Blessed day to everybody. Troy Jones, who just got a new job, excited about that, but is also supposed to be in school right now, so should not be on this stream because dude, go to class, is saying hi. We got Pastor D, who is always curious, and I'm curious, she's probably wanting to check out the metaverse because she is very excited about the metaverse and virtual historically. And we got Flat Cap busting my man Troy right now. Yes, Troy, you are supposed to be in class. Get off the stream, bro. Like, I do not want to get in trouble because you are ditching guitar. Ian on the other coast is saying good morning, and probably some others coming on. So as you guys are watching this, interactive, of course, in the show. Okay, Troy, Troy Apocalypse. Troy's at lunch, and so it's okay for Troy to be involved because it's at lunch. Now, Troy, when lunch is over and you go to guitar class, stop. Okay, don't be that guy. I don't want to get like some associate principal yelling at me because you be skipping class and being a distraction because you're watching the stream. Now, once you graduate in a couple weeks, you can do whatever the crap you want. I don't care. But until you graduate, until you get that diploma, do go to school. All right. Hey, disclaimer. Yes. Okay. Troy is in fact going back to class. I know. The rest of us were very relieved at this and excited that dude's gonna finish strong up in Pennsylvania. And so Troy, update over for this one. Hey, I'm excited about this conversation. And so let me go ahead and bring into the show. I'm going to press my magic button. Hopefully this works. Pastor Alina and Pastor Coco. How you doing, ladies?
Doing okay.
Awesome. And so it's very good. Well, Pastor Coco and Pastor Alina, you're all quiet, like a little reserved. Is this the normal like metaverse virtual reality MMO energy level? Is it more No, like what does energy look like for you when you're wearing the headset, Pastor Alina?
Oh, it's quite the opposite of this quiet, reserved self you see here. Just like there, you step into the space, and immediately you're just like surrounded by so many people. Just the energy is insane. Sometimes, because I'm a little older, it can be a bit much, even. It's just a lot of excitement. Everybody's always really just excited to gather and to catch up, even though most of us will see each other a few times a week. That excitement to get together is always vibrant.
Beautiful. And so VR MMO Church, virtual reality MMO, massive multiplayer online church. This was founded by and is still run by DJ Soto, who's well known. Wired magazine talked about him being the virtual reality pastor, and BBC has done stories on him. The Daily Show did a shtick on him for baptizing somebody in virtual reality, and so VRMMO has really been the Metaverse church kind of that has been known over the past decade or so. And recently, and Pastor Alina heads up the virtual reality campus, and then Pastor Coco in the middle has pivoted and really launched an MMO church in Final Fantasy, and so which is different. I'm assuming than the virtual reality church, and so I'd love to get into that a little bit. But hey, let's meet these two kind of heading into the conversation. Pastor Alina, maybe set us up a little bit here. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got connected to VRMMO.
Oh wow! This I could take up the entire time, but I will try my best not to here. I discovered the RMMO Church 6 years ago ish. I was a flight attendant for most of my life. I became disabled about 12 or 15 years ago, and my illness, my body doesn't regulate temperature, and so it's kept me confined in my home. And so I first got into VR because I've always been a gamer, and VR was this escape for me. It let me feel like I was no longer in the same for like this little box that I lived in forever. And one of the first things I downloaded was Alt Space. Couldn't believe there was a church in there. Didn't think even that it was real. Like we get that a lot where people don't think it's a real church. People are playing in some way. Um, it, but as soon as I stepped in, Bishop Soto was teaching. All of the people were so welcoming, made me feel comfortable immediately. And then after hearing his teaching and just the full experience, I knew then and there, this is my forever home. Like I just knew it. And I knew I had to do whatever I could to make sure it not only like it stays existing, but flourishes. It was an immediate passion. And then I just started serving every which way I could. And then over the years, I started taking seminary classes and ultimately becoming a pastor here at VRMMO Church.
Awesome. And so you excited. We're going to get more into the VR aspects and pastoring and virtual reality and all that. But what's come out in the past, Pastor Coco, 2 years, 3 years, a pivot towards not just virtual reality, but into these MMO video games like Final Fantasy and Rust and Black Desert. But specifically, Pastor Coco heads up the Final Fantasy campus. And so, Pastor Coco, maybe tell a bit about your story and how you got connected into the church.
Well, I got connected in 2020, and I had joined to help with the MMO aspect of it in 2020 because it was still in the experimental discovery phases. And I have a long background in emerging tech design, and that's actually what I do for a living. And so when the COVID layoffs happened and I was re-examining my existence, I'm like, I wonder if there's a church in VR. And so I Googled VR church, and there was a VRMMO Church, and I connected with DJ and wanted to volunteer for VR, and then I found out about this MMO side, and I'm like, well, my friends have been trying to convince me to play Final Fantasy, so why not? I'll volunteer for that. And yeah, and never planned on becoming a pastor. And DJ tapped me on the shoulder, and Alina can say the same thing. I was just here to help. And then DJ said, you lead. So here I am.
That's awesome. Delegation is so cool, right? It's like, hey, that's
Yeah,
glad you're here. Take over.
go do
That's
that.
beautiful. Hey,
Yeah.
so let's dig in. It's kind of tongue in cheek. Is the metaverse dead? It feels like in some circles there's not as much attention into virtual reality as there was during the kind of the initial push, and COVID brought a lot of attention to it. Um, that being said, in Altspace was really a strong push for a while. Microsoft shut that down and poured some of their energy into what is now, Chat GPT, and AI is kind of the tech push it feels like for a while. But the time that I'm spending in virtual reality, there's still tons of people involved. I'm still seeing technology being worked on, and software being developed, and I'm seeing churches grow and expand in this space. So it doesn't actually feel like anything is dead or changed. Pastor Alina, what's your experience? What are you guys feeling over out of VRMMO? Is this thing really dead?
Gosh, no. No, definitely not dead. Yes, there was this like spike during COVID, where just there was immense growth. And of course, as society opened back up and people could go out on their own, some of those people, sure, don't come always or as often. But we continue to grow. We continue to get new people all of the time. Um, and it's, we're just at the beginning. Like this idea of we've already hit our peak and now it's dead or going away is we haven't really even begun, in all honesty. Uh, this is without a doubt an emerging and growing platform. And yeah, still a lot of exciting things to come. So many exciting things to come.
Yeah. Let's talk a little here about it, because the idea of Flat Cap is saying here, Flat Cap Dapper, where two or three are gathered in the name of Jesus. It is a church, and I know Flat Cap's been working alongside you all, and doing some and helping out in the VR side on both sides. But um, talk to us a little bit here. What does church look like in virtual reality? Like describe. I wish put on headsets and get in there. It doesn't do its service. But talk to us a little bit here about what the church experience is in VR.
So, first of all, it's impossible to ever explain in a way that someone who hasn't experienced it they just can't wrap their mind around. Just the VR experience itself. When you put on this little headset, um, you really do feel as if you are in the presence of others. Um, or that you are in that space if you're going and doing a VR thing that's not social. Um, the immersion is like indescribable. Again, you can't describe it. Uh, when I step into, say, church, there are people all around. We're very excited to see each other. We hug one another, and it feels like you're hugging one another, like whatever endorphins or is put out like in a normal hug. It is the same thing. Your body has the same response as if it were a physical experience. Um, Church in VR is particularly exciting because you definitely, again, it's not like you're watching a stream, something that's happening like you're an observer. You are absolutely in it. And in VR, we're able to build spaces, and we do, especially in Rec Room. new worlds for every sermon. We have a team that does that. So you're not just like listening to a pastor who's just speaking all this time, but you're walking through that environment that is created just for that. And there's a lot of opportunity because you're not standing like on a podium with everybody out there. You're walking together. So there's a lot of opportunity to engage with people in the middle of service. So it's less, one person doing all of the sharing of God's wisdom. Um, and we do it together. There's very much a together attitude. There's like this, sometimes the pastor in the congregation there can be this separation or this wall, where in VR, and I'm sure on the MMO side as well, that wall is torn down and we're doing it together. And
Hmm.
to me, that's really exciting.
Yeah. And so you're, I know you've mentioned Rec Room a couple times. That's one of the social worlds, one of the virtual reality platforms that exist that people really come together and connect with. Rec Room is really tied to a lot of the video game systems, and so it tends to be a little younger audience, a little skewed a little younger, I think. And so, but in addition to Rec Room, you're also in VR chat. That's the other one, correct? And
Correct.
so,
We are.
like as in VR chat, DJ Soto calls it the Wild Wild West. I've heard him talk about that. For there's some level I've talked about it being the red light district. It's kind of no parental controls, and it goes. People are a little more free to express themselves, the good and the bad. Um, like what does ministry look like in both of those spaces? You're dealing with maybe a more immature kid in one realm, and then you're dealing with unfiltered adults in the other. And so, how do you change things in between the worlds, or what's your approach maybe in both of those spaces?
So that's really interesting because Rec Room and VR chat couldn't be more opposite. And Rec Room definitely has a younger crowd, but there are plenty of adults as well. It's just it's a for those young at heart. I love it, and I'm only young at heart, not young in age. And then
Perspective.
VR chat is like you said, it's the Wild Wild West. Yeah, and with an older crowd for the most part. And we don't really change. I don't change anything between my Rec Room experience and my VR chat experience, as in how I engage with people, because that engagement should always um, be the same. In Rec Room, these people are hungry in the same way that VR chat people are. Like they're all coming, even though it's different locations, they're coming for the same purpose. Like often they aren't comfortable or are unwelcome in a physical church. So whether they be older or younger, they're often coming from a similar background or perspective. In VR church, VR chat, they're older and more comfortable talking, which is really cool. So in VR chat, we have a lot better communication um, with the community. We have these community Sundays, which are held in Rec Room and in VR chat, where instead of the sermon from a pastor or teacher, we take that hour to focus on building the community, so that the community can care for itself. So it's not just a pastor care for all of the people, which is impossible, but getting the community to care for itself. Um, in VR chat, they're older, so they're more comfortable opening up, and they often open up about things that no one would dream about bringing up in, say, a physical church.
Yeah.
There's this comfort, uh, um, and the community's just excited to engage and help people. We talk about everyday life and the challenges and how we can live for Christ in this complicated world, in this difficult world. And so from depression to standing strong in your faith when you're surrounded, say in VR chat, by like a lot of damaging, there's like you said, red light, wild west. How do you stand in your faith when you're surrounded by all of this that's trying to tug you away?
Yeah.
Pardon me, let me get rid of that. And so we have similar conversations in Rec Room. It's just usually people are not quite as open, but they do, but not nearly quite as open to talk about things. And again, this is one of my favorite things about digital ministry, is the engagement that we can have with the community, not one-sided thing. Um, so yeah.
Love that. And you are, I mean, you're engaging with a different type of person in virtual reality, that who would go to a physical church building. Like, I kind of have this running joke. Nobody in the history of time has ever said, I'm going to skip going to church in the building today, and instead I'm going to go to church in virtual reality. Like, my experience in these spaces, it's atheist agnostics. It's people that have walked away from the church, no exposure to church or God whatsoever, not even understanding who Jesus is as a person, what the cross symbolizes, and so it's
Or like she
um,
said, not welcome at
yeah.
the church.
Yeah, and I know, Coco, that's something that you highlight a lot, and
Yeah.
protect. You feel like you need to protect within VRMMO. Do you maybe want to expand a little bit and share a little bit about that?
About the people that aren't welcome in
Yeah,
physical church. Yeah, we get it's actually where we get the most flack. When you're always talking about people getting shot. This is where we get the most flack, is because we
hmm,
will let the atheists, the agnostics, the people with really difficult questions that Christians usually get offended by them asking,
right.
and but they don't feel safe to ask. And we'll get Muslims, we'll get Hindu, we'll get all kinds of people, LGBTQ people, and we welcome them and we give them a safe place to get to know Jesus without trying to force them to meet some kind of standard. We meet them where they are, just like Jesus did, and we try to help them grow at their pace. And that's not something that those people get in real life church, at least from my experience with real life church. So,
How so I would love to I want to come back to that, and it's interesting. Axel says here, we talk a lot about church hurt, don't we? And I know
yeah,
that's
he's
a
one of mine.
theme. Yeah, and that feels, I feel that in the metaverse space, and can recognize that. But let's I want to dig in a little bit before we go too far down that trail. MMO, like, so you're doing church in virtual reality. VR church was a thing for probably a decade before you started to swing over and explore the MMO side. And I know there were some experiments with some things, and we landed in Final Fantasy that's still operating today. Pastor Coco, can you maybe explain a little bit about what that experience was like, where you guys tested, and a little bit about like what church actually looks like in a video game like Final Fantasy?
Yeah, we've tested in a bunch of different games. We've done GTA. Alina was a part of that. I didn't play that one, but DJ and Alina were playing it, so they can tell you more about it. But did Rust, and that ran for a little while, and Black Desert Online, and Final Fantasy 14. And all of them had potential. Rust had great potential, and it was doing really well. And the problem is that we can't do it all. So we have to get other people to run those different platforms. And the people that were helping with the different platforms, like Black Desert, disappeared. So it's like they just stopped coming.
Mm.
And Rust, we didn't have the people to keep it going. So I'm the last standing, basically. That's how it's going.
So I'm curious. Let's dig in. What does volunteering for Final Fantasy or for Rust, like what type of skill set, what type of personality, what type of person would be volunteering for some of these MMO games, church in these games?
They're all different. Every single one is different. You cannot lift and shift from one experience to the next. So you have to play it and learn the culture, just like you would if you're going out in a physical location to a different mission field.
Okay.
Same thing in digital. And so Rust, absolutely completely different personality than Final Fantasy 14. That I don't know that there would be many people that like both.
Okay. So walk
So
me through specifically, because you're in Final Fantasy. Walk
mhm,
me through that. What type of person? By the way, my daughter is obsessed with Final Fantasy.
yes.
She is in
Hmm.
she's in Tokyo right now, and she's actually tomorrow. She's going to the Square Enix headquarters. That's Final Fantasy, right?
Nice.
Yeah,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
she loves Final Fantasy, and so like I know my daughter comes to mind when I think about the question, but like what type of personality, what type of person, like who would you be looking for in the Final Fantasy volunteering?
Well, our group, I don't know if it's just by coincidence or not, but it's all over 20. So we have a couple of teens that show up every now and then, but most everyone's like adult. And we're come from all different backgrounds. We've got mothers that we have stay at home moms. We have people that work all day and just come home to unwind in Final Fantasy. We've got a whole slew of different backgrounds coming in. And the personality that I see mostly in Final Fantasy is one that just really values community and the MMO sets up, it enables that community in ways that, and I'm not, you can get community in VR and in Rec Room and stuff, but MMOs are meant for teamwork, meant for community.
Interesting.
So yeah.
And so, like from a gamer perspective, is this like a? I'm using words I don't even understand. But is this like a guild where you're creating a group of friends in the community, or are you engaging with new people outside of that you're meeting in the community and bringing them in? Like I recognize how most people would recognize how video games do allow for a community to exist. I'm curious though, because church is a different level of community, or the perception is,
Mhm.
and that may not exist in video game space. How do you capitalize on video game community to be the church for others?
Well, each game's different, but
Let's talk Final
with
Fantasy, since
Final
that's what you're
Fantasy,
most comfortable. Yeah.
um, they do have guilds. They're called free companies, but we don't focus on those because the way the servers are set up and the way we get people from all over the world. Our last church service had people from New Zealand, Australia, the Europe, Canada, Mexico,
Wow.
and the United States. So since we can't all, the servers are set up regionally, so not everyone's going to be able to play together unless we travel. So we can't do free companies across
Hmm.
servers. So we don't bother with the free company. We have one for the people that want to come over to that server and join it, but we don't focus on the free company. We just focus on, um, we find our people by putting videos on YouTube, and then they come into Discord, and then we connect that way. And then we just play together. We do play sessions and we play together. We meet together on a server, but
Okay.
we don't meet in game. We meet from YouTube and Discord.
Okay, so Discord, asynchronous community, is really the hub, and so you're connecting with people via YouTube, and Discords where you're really developing the relationship, and then you're
Hmm.
strengthening the relationship by playing in game. So
Yeah,
it's really like a shared thing between the video game, YouTube, and Discord. Those are
and
kind of
Discord.
like the three platforms you're using. I love that. And then the virtual reality side, you're utilizing Discord as well to build relationships outside of headset time. Is that correct?
It is, but I would probably say it's the other way around on the VR side.
Okay.
Yeah, I see the relationships forming in VR and then
Yep.
continuing in Discord. It, just by nature, because it really feels like you're there in person. So in a small amount of time, you're talking face to face, just like we're talking face to face. So we're not messaging and waiting for someone else to reply. You're just having a conversation. And so that's when most of our relationships are formed, in these conversations that we're having. And then
Hmm.
in Discord, that's how we connect with everyone else, because we are one church. We're doing this together. Even though we meet on different platforms, we're all in this together. And so
Yeah.
Discord is where we connect with each other. And um, and yes, there's lots of conversation going on in Discord across the various people from the
Yep.
different platforms. So it continues in Discord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the fact that even as a church, you have different strategies really using the same tools. Like, the role of Discord in MMO versus VR, the role of the video game versus virtual reality. Like you're adjusting, and I kind of unintentionally I'm pressuring Coco, like, what's the MMO answer? And she's like, well, in Final Fantasy it's this, and in Rust it would be something
There's
completely
no one
different, and
set
there's
answer.
no one, you know.
Yeah.
Flat Cap just literally put it in chat right now. It's a multi-campus, it's a multi-platform, digital church, and it's not like it's a multi-site where it's centralized. Where I attended a session once from a U.S. based organization that was like literally was like what can a multi-site church learn from Walmart, because it was all about franchising and creating that centralized feel across all the campuses. This is not a multi-site. This is more of like a multi-church where you're planting something in VR, where you're planting something in Final Fantasy, or you're planting something. I would love to see a GTA church, Grand Theft Auto, just the
Yeah.
kind of the cojones to actually put something together, the
Yeah.
gravitas
DJ still
of
wants to
reaching
do that.
somebody in
Yeah.
that space. Like
Yeah.
I need to reach out to them,
Hmm.
figure that out. But um, to be able to do unique things, to be stylized, to connect with those specific people, using specific strategies, recognizing different people operate differently. Like that's a beautiful thing to explore. Um, Let me ask this question of both of you, for VR, for MMO, for Final Fantasy, whatever the context. What is the one thing you can do in your unique church expressions that cannot happen physically? What can you all do in virtual reality and Final Fantasy that cannot happen in a physical church? Pastor Lena, you want to go first? I'll put you on the spot.
Sure. One of the coolest things is that we can gather from all over the world. We're not limited to our local space. So this helps us because as a church, we also feel strongly that we want people to come to their own. We want to help people to get to the point where they can come to their own understanding. We don't want to force anything down anyone's throats and say, you must understand this, all the same. And when you have a global church, you're exposed to a lot of new ideas, because church one place is very different and understandings can be very different. And we provide this space where people are free to discover and talk about these things. And it's a great place for reevaluating. Like, sometimes we grow up with ideas and that's what we've been told. And when we're limited to always that same small group of people, we don't get the opportunity to see that maybe we're mistaken in some places. And so it creates that, which I absolutely love. Um, it's the gathering of different
Yeah.
minds.
Yeah.
Pastor Coco, does that echo for you?
Yeah, just like I was saying, our last service, we had people from Spain, UK, Canada, Europe, Mexico, Australia, New Zealand. It's like, are you going to get that in a physical church? Maybe if they travel there, but no.
It's
And then
definitely harder to get that feel.
we have conversations around. We learn what church is like in other countries and their understandings of certain scriptures that are different based on your translations of the Bible, because English is very different than German. And so we learn it. And like she said, it's like we have a broader understanding of just our stuck, for me, United States evangelical Christian upbringing. And you don't get that in physical church. You're stuck with who's there and you're stuck with the mindsets of that local region, which is often very close minded. So having that global community and global perspective opens up your mind to what is actually going on in the world, because we're often very sheltered from
Sure.
that.
I'm going to pull the thread on that because I'm curious what this response is, Pastor Coco. You're talking about how Final Fantasy has a very strong culture, right? And so like it's a unique persona, the type of people that are engaging in that. Globally, you're seeing reach and people are engaging. You're talking multiple continents, multiple countries. And you know, some of the countries you're rattling off, like even Europe and America. Europe is post-Christian, and so as a result, Christianity looks different. You're talking Mexico, Hispanic, strong Catholic, that has a different kind of expression, and you're saying that countries kind of have their unique spin on church and Christianity as well. What is the I've kind of been theorizing on something, and I would love you to say I'm wrong if I am. I've been talking about how that the culture of the platform that we go into, Final Fantasy, that culture is predominant. It leads over the secondary culture, which would be the countries that we're from. Would you agree with that, or do you feel like, you know, a Hispanic, someone from Mexico, the Hispanic influence is stronger than the influence of the platform? Does the question make sense? Am I kind of clear in explaining it?
Yeah. I would say that the Final Fantasy culture wins out because it's
Okay.
something that we can all unite under. Just like we're all supposed to be uniting under the banner of Christ, at least in Final Fantasy, we're uniting under Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah.
So we have the unity in that, but there is a little difference and one of the reasons they don't allow cross regional data center play as much. I mean, it's opening up, but there's still some lockdown on that, is because
Mm-hmm.
there are still different cultures. So like the Japan, you can't go play on the Japan one because they have a different culture. And if anyone from the other cultures comes in there, it could cause a lot of strife.
Wow.
And so Square Enix is aware of that because, and so they protect that. And help me out, y'all that are from Final Fantasy in the chat. What else do y'all see that's different about MMO
Yeah,
that you
I'd
can't
love to
do?
hear. We got
Yeah.
looks like Bunny. At least I'm recognizing a lot of
Yeah.
people I don't usually
Yeah.
see in here. Bunny L
Bonnie, Axel,
is
Tonic. Yeah.
Axel as well.
Yeah.
We love the
If they're
community
still here.
aspects. They may be
Yeah.
around. Tonic is Tonic you, mostly adult. He was making a comment on that earlier.
Yeah.
But I love that. We've got Steve Reed making a comment. Steve's brother from another mother on my side. Truly sounds to me like ecclesia. Jesus meant the church to be. It's interesting. Steve's on the older side of the equation. Steve mocks me because I call him an old man. But he's not. He's not. Yeah, he is. He's an old man, but he's young at heart. Let's say it that way. Rexy Ronan the cat.
Rexy.
That's
They're one of the
that's
ones
a
that goes across both. Yeah.
okay.
Rexy will show up at our services. Yeah.
Okay, so she does Final Fantasy in VR. Do you see
Mhm.
is that the majority? Is that a minority?
It's a
A couple
minority.
people minority towards that. Um, what is there? I mean, you're mentioning like Grand Theft Auto as a possibility, and just selfishly, I just really want to see that happen. But like, is there a roadmap for what's next, or a passion area to explore next, even at an individual level? Like, what what are you all thinking about where VRMMO is going next?
Well, our plans are continue to plant. That's as we all have at least amongst the leaders, we all have that apostolic gifting. And so we're going to always want to plant. But as you know, we're working on the multiplication aspect. So it can't just be me and DJ and Alina that are
Yeah,
doing it. And so we have to raise up the leaders to go do that. And DJ's got plans that he's working out in his brain, that he's always working on something. And he's not ready to share those yet, but he's working.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun to see the wheels spinning in his head. But I would,
Yeah.
I love the idea of having a foundation in place and not rushing into doing something before you have the structure in place to manage it. So
Right.
often in physical church, it's like, okay, we gotta launch this campus, we gotta launch this church, let's burn the ships and get there. And by the time you actually get it launched, you're fried, and you don't even have
Yeah.
the stability to maintain it. And that's
Same
one of the
thing with
things
digital.
that, yeah. And but you all kind of circling the wagons up here for a stretch, and focusing on a good healthy culture, multiplying leadership development, and being able to create a healthy foundation to be able to manage where you're going. um, I see that moving very well for you in the weeks, and the months, and in the years to come, to be able to be healthy as you're growing and multiplying towards that. Well, I know one of the things that we had talked about earlier was kind of the church hurt towards that, and I've seen that. I don't even want to call out in this conversation. Like, I've seen that in my interactions and in virtual reality, and what I've seen in some of the video conversations that even Coco, Pastor Coco, you and I have had. Um, what is it like to pastor, to shepherd that people that are struggling with some of this church hurt, or pain, or addiction, or depression? Like, there's a lot of darkness in these areas that you're in. What is it like to pastor and shepherd people in these spaces?
Want to go first?
May I? Or you
Mhm.
go ahead. Go, go ahead, Pastor Coco.
Flip a coin.
We do
Go,
see
Pastor Coco.
a lot of the dark that honestly I don't think that a lot of people see in physical.
Mm,
We see a lot of the dark, and we see a lot of the byproducts of parents letting digital devices raise their children. We see a lot of, yeah, that I don't really want to go into details, but yeah, we do see a lot of that dark, and we don't have all the answers because we're still like realizing as we go and connecting dots as we go. Oh, I think this is the issue. And so now, how do we deal with that? We're still figuring it out. Prayers is definitely something that's needed. We have a lot of spiritual warfare going on, a lot of
hmm
dark, um, and so yeah, we need prayers and light and acknowledging. Because that's another thing that I've experienced with physical churches is that they will not acknowledge your pain. They will minimize it. And so what we try to do is acknowledge, yes, this is an issue. Yes, this hurts. And here's what you've been taught. Here's the truth.
Yeah.
Um, the Alina, did you want to go?
Oh, I just so like you said, there's a lot of dark. There is a lot of dark, but I also believe there's a lot of dark in the physical church as well. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah, there is.
not
Yeah,
as
there is.
visible because we in the physical
Hmm.
church we're taught to come best face forward,
Yeah.
like
Masks. Hmm.
you get the mask, you get in trouble, you're going to embarrass me now because we go to church and you did this, and how's it
Yeah.
going to look, where here
And you're going to get kicked out.
it was and kicked out. Yeah, right. There's this fear,
Yeah.
even if a family member does something, you know. Um, and so here it's opposite. Like we try our best to draw that out of people, instead of trying to hide it. We try and see it, because you can't address a thing if you're not addressing the thing. If you're hiding the thing, you're never going to get past it. And so we, throughout MMO and VR, uh, really encourage honesty. We want people to come as they are. Don't hide yourself. We want to see you. We want to know you, not some you think we want you to be, but you. Um, and it's very exciting to be, as because I have a very strong shepherd side. And so to what countless times, what an honor. People have opened up to me in ways that they don't open up with their own family or their close relationships. Um, I still have someone, Melody, who I met 6 years ago. She had broken her leg, and she had posted in Discord asking for prayer. And so, of course, I was praying for her. I reached out to her, to help in whatever way I can. Um, she was dealing with an earlier trauma, who left her unable to speak. Like she just
Mm,
totally shut down, closed off, and didn't speak, not even with her family, like did not speak for years. And even though a few years ago she kind of stopped coming to VRMMO Church, not because of anything about us, but life transitions and things change, and she moved on to different things, but she and I never lost contact. And she about a year ago wanted to meet me in VR, and I'm like, absolutely, let's go do this. And when we spawned in, she just started talking to me, and I had never heard her voice. And she shared with me that I am the second person that she's feels comfortable enough, because there's
wow.
still, it wasn't just from nothing to talking to everyone. There was a trust barrier, and the fact that she was comfortable speaking to me is such an incredible honor. And so when we get the opportunity, I'm sorry, it's reminding me of a church adventure. Alexa, dismiss. Sorry. Um, so just like incredible. I cannot begin to describe it. Just wow, that we have the opportunity to serve people in this way
Yeah.
is pretty special.
It's ironic that you deal with people with in avatar form, right? And
Mhm.
the avatar form is when people are the most real, and the people that are walking around in normal clothes and physical space. You said the word masks. I think Pastor Coco said it initially, but they're guilty, or they can be guilty of hiding behind masks and putting up fronts, and presenting the Instagram lifestyle that is not as
Yeah.
perfect as it is once you drill in. And not that it needs to be perfect. We're not judging them for having issues as much as questioning why they feel like they have to put up those fronts and to put up those walls to prevent it. And I love I love the opportunity that you all have to shine the light in the darkness. I talk about this, and this is one of the things with the Church Digital we're going to be digging in a lot to over the course of the year. Like, and you all with your unique environments of Final Fantasy and VR, like you're exemplifying this. We are doing ministry in digital, in virtual reality. We are doing in video games. We're doing ministry in addictive spaces. People can get addicted to virtual reality. People can addicted to the lifestyle of the games that we're in. We're recruiting volunteers that are doing ministry, that will do ministry inside these addictive spaces. And number three, we are serving people that are addicted to the spaces they're in, or are very quick to highlight other addictive behaviors and suicide and depression. Like, it's very easy for people to express these extreme level situations. I don't know that it's a higher percentage. I used to think it was a higher percentage in digital and virtual. I don't believe that anymore. I just think people are more forthcoming in some of these environments. It's easier for people to really express what's in their heart, as opposed to hiding behind those masks. And trying to help you, as both of you as pastors, manage these situations. But one of the things that I really respect about you two in conversations has been, hey, I can't manage this all entirely on myself. Like, we need to figure out how to reproduce and replicate the pastor mindset, especially now as you're talking about planting new churches and new ministries and multiplying out. Like, it's important for us to recognize, hey, we need to start to equip others on how to handle these really difficult situations. Like, I would love to
Yeah.
maybe just some of the challenges or opportunities. I know you're literally smack in the middle of this, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but as you've been looking at challenging people to step up pastorally, embracing a shepherd heart, like what are some opportunities or challenges that you two are feeling about recruiting and maybe starting to develop some of these people? Are you okay addressing that? Alina, do
Alina,
you
you
maybe
are?
want to start that off?
Yeah, sure. Um, so I think challenge number one is, um, it's funny because people seem to be so much more open and willing in a virtual or digital space. But that still doesn't, the unease or lack of confidence in self is still very much there. And so I think that one of the biggest challenges is that people, even though we try and cultivate this, we're in this together thing, like all of us playing, one part of the one body, each their own part of this one body, and it's collective. The ministry should be done together. Um, Still, people tend to not value themselves, not they don't have the self confidence to
Yeah.
realize that they can do these things
Make
too.
difference.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that's a long journey, like a long journey, just to get them from coming into the doors to being confident enough to pursue uh, these type roles in the church. Um, I think that's the biggest hurdle, to be honest, and time. It takes a lot of time
Mm-hmm.
to lead the
Yeah.
church, and
Yeah.
it's difficult. People have families, and they have to make a living. We
Yeah.
don't have the financial support to pay our pastors, living wages at this moment, and that those two things are our biggest
Yeah.
challenge, I think.
Yeah. Um, Alina has the pastoral gift. She's a shepherd. I'm not. I'm an apostle. I want to forge ahead, and I don't care if you come with me or not. I'm going. So that's my problem.
That's
Um,
Pastor Coco. I echo that 100%. But no, keep
yeah.
going, please.
So I'm learning. How do I? Because that is part of the apostolic gift, is to teach others how to do this. Um, the biggest challenges that I'm seeing is we've got a lot of people, like Alina said, who don't realize the gifting and the calling on their life and that they can actually make a difference. I was there once.
Hmm.
It's like when you were having that women's discussion the other day, it's like I was told I couldn't.
Yeah.
So we have to undo those teachings, those false teachings that
Yeah.
you don't matter, that it's only the pastors that can do this. No, it's everybody. We have to retrain people into seeing that we're all in this together. It's not
Yeah.
just pastors. It's not just specific people that were called. And so I've been working on that on my side, on the Final Fantasy side, because we do our teachings differently in uh, the platforms.
Sure.
And yeah,
You,
so
it's interesting. I want to come back to the women thing. Tonic says here, what I like most about this group is that they've been supportive of me in my fresh start with God ever since first joining them. They've given me all the resources to keep me on His path. What a powerful testimony. How long? Like, what can you tell me? Just quick snapshot of Tonic's story here. How long has he or she been connected with you?
when did you join Tonic? It's been at least 9 months. It's been a while. Um,
Yeah.
just fresh start, and you can find his testimony
Yeah.
on our YouTube. But
Here's
I
Bunny
don't want to
L.
put his words
No,
in
that's
his
fine.
mouth.
I
But
love that. Bunny L, the community helped me to reinvigorate my walk with God. Pastor Coco and the newfound friends I met in the Final Fantasy 14 side encouraged me to take better steps towards healing. Um,
yeah,
yeah.
and I've seen significant growth in both of them, and in all of the people that are getting engaged are seeing it. That's
In
you have to be engaged.
engaging God, engaging the word, not
Yeah,
engaged as
in,
in getting married.
in
Uh,
community. No, yeah, in
engaged in community.
community
Okay.
and in the like services, and
Yeah.
yeah, Tonic says
Yeah.
about 9 months.
Tonic
Yeah,
says about 9 months, so that's
yeah.
good. Yeah, I mean we talk about this all the time, doing something different. Bunny's been about a year, so I love this. Doing something different allows us to reach someone different. And I'm gonna
Mhm.
Tonic Bunny, like I'm gonna right now I'm talking to you. Yes or no? Um, would you be involved at a physical church if you did not get involved in VRMMO? I don't want to put words in your mouth. Go ahead and type it in chat if you're available. Would you be involved at a physical church? Yes or no? And I'll put it on the screen when I see it come up. But time and time again, we see that people who, by doing something different, like church in a video game, like church in virtual reality, yeah, that is a radical concept that makes no sense to the average physical church attender. Well, here in America, 1 out of 4 are still attending a physical church. That number is decreasing. And
Yeah,
so
definitely
to
decreasing.
do something to reach different people, to reach people that are not coming to the buildings, we have to do something different. And these
Yeah,
two ladies are doing a phenomenal job in their context of reaching, engaging, evangelizing, shepherding, and discipling people in these platforms. Now, one of the things that it was interesting, I did not, and I publicly say this, I didn't realize until it's interesting. Bunny says here, she would have attended a physical church, but online just works better for me. And that's great. I mean, whether it works better or whether it was in isolation, what's important for me is you are in the Word, you're connected with somebody who's pastorally shepherding and caring and discipling and challenging you, which I know is happening here on these two. But I did not intentionally, we did the women's thing last week and had 4 women. I did not intentionally the next week book 2 more ladies to come on and do this. It just organically happened. It didn't even occur to me to this morning when I realized, oh, I got to stream this afternoon. Oh, I've got these
yeah,
2 ladies. Oh, I've got to come up with
yeah.
questions. Do I
I
ask the
noticed.
question about women's in ministry? And I was like, but we kind of hashed that last time, and it was like I'll be blunt. I remember one of the conversations that somebody said last week was Jeff. I long to be on the show, interviewed, not about women's ministry, about what I'm actually doing in ministry. And so like I didn't want to like say anything because I'm like, I don't want to be that guy because she's not wrong. We need to do that. But since Pastor Coco brought it up and you know made it public, um, what tension do you all feel in the metaverse centered around you being women pastors? You know, last week we had Pastor Susie's wife, Amanda Souza, you know, and she's talking about as a streamer, she felt a lot of that tension. You know, you talked about Coco, Pastor Coco, how, you know, you were trained that it wasn't that, and you're kind of reprogramming and relearning, unlearning and relearning some things in your role, which echoed a lot of the things that were last time. Do you feel that from the average attender in virtual reality? Do you get trolled by people in virtual reality that are slamming like Bible verses out of context in Final Fantasy or in VR? Like what is the perception of the average person in your unique environments towards you being women pastors?
Alina
Who
wants to
wants to go
talk.
first? Yeah, Lena leaned in. I saw that. She got
She's
really
like,
excited.
yeah.
Go for
Rocking
it,
back and
Alina.
forth. So, it, average person, it is not a problem. Average person, people don't even consider it, as it doesn't cross their mind. But we absolutely get trolls, people who find out that we are teaching and we are female, who come specifically just to try and disrupt it. Probably the most significant one, and this happened. It was a group of people who came. It was like their mission. They would come week after week after week to cause problems, and they would have this recording that was just playing on a loop. That would they came into the space and it would say, "You are a Jezebel. Women are not allowed to preach," and it just was on this
Loop.
loop. And so, we end up needing to kick them from the space, and then they would come back, and this would happen over and over. Kick them from the space. I don't know. They gave up eventually. I haven't seen them in a long
I think
time.
it's a seasonal missional trip. So just wait till spring break.
Seasonal missional. Yeah. So
Really?
so
It's a
usually,
That's funny. Go ahead, Coco. Or go ahead,
I don't know
Alina.
what it is. Oh, yes. So normally it's like a one person. Normally it's not this group format that in this case. Normally it's one person. Um they in my experience they often wait till after service and then come, and I just have a question for you. And that question is, do you know you're not supposed to be teaching? um and so we'll have a quick discussion. They usually leave and don't come back because they aren't going to convince me that I shouldn't be sharing Christ with the world. But they try. Um, but the people who come usually don't even think one way or another about it. It's only the trolls who and again, occasionally there'll be just people who don't know what to expect. They come in, you're female, they ask you a question,
Yeah.
they ask you after, and when you guys agree to disagree, they go elsewhere to find another place where a male will
Yeah.
lead and
And
teach them.
again, we're getting a different group of people because we get the ones that aren't accepted at church and that didn't grow up in church. And so they didn't get taught that. So, and then on the Final Fantasy side, I had to turn off my DMs. You can't DM me unless you're my friend. And because I would get people DMing me saying,
Really?
you're not,
Wow.
that they don't believe. Yeah. And it's really frustrating because they would, in the same paragraph, say, I don't believe in women pastors. Are you married?
Well,
I'm such and such age, and I'm not married. It's like,
I theologically
I
don't agree
just,
with anything you're doing, but are you single? Who are you seeing right
yes,
now?
yes.
Pastor D,
But I
My
love this
need to
DMs
know.
are turned
conversation.
off. Don't take it personally if
Oh
you can't
my,
get through to
yeah,
me on a DM.
Yeah.
that's funny. Pastor
But
D, we're gonna have a
yeah,
conversation on this soon. We'll bring you on the show. Yeah, it is.
yeah,
I do. You know, my heart goes out. I don't know. I I had a conversation today with some of the team, like how do we handle this? How do we address the women in ministry? Like how can we support more than we already are? And you know how do we strengthen this and shield and protect or fight? Like what's the stance? And so this is what these two women are doing are phenomenal. And you know it's interesting. Some of I made a conversation in talking about like, sorry, let me back up. I made this observation today that the women that I have in leadership of the church digital are the ones that bust my butt the most. Like they're the ones that call my crap, that tell me. And literally, I was in a conversation with Stacy, and I made some comment just off the cuff, not just something I would say all the time, and I've said 20 times this year. And Stacy's like, "Okay, Jeff, can I say something in response?" And I was like, "Yeah." She says, "Do you realize how racist that comment was?" And I was like, "Actually, no, I don't. Can you educate me?" And she explained to me what her vantage point was, and I was like, "Oh crap, that was not what I meant at all. I made that comment because of something 30 years ago in a book that I read, and it like had nothing to do." And she's like,
yeah,
"Was that book written by a white man?" And I said, "Actually, yes, it was, and it's been quoted by hundreds of other
yeah,
white men, business leaders over the years." And so, we are ingrained, we're brought up, we're trained in this. And new
yeah,
times doing something different is is necessary. Dr. or Pastor D here is talking about recognizing that apostolic gift wherever it is in men and women. I want to share some love here as we're wrapping up. Oasis Church VR, so I'm assuming this is VR Tiger. Alina was the Jedi World Builder in Altspace VR who showed me the ropes when I first got started, and so that's awesome, man. You really sparked something in him. He actually VR Tiger built the world. I just saw it today for the first time. Built the world that we're doing the metaverse or the metaverse conference, the digital missionary conference. He built the world that we're going to be doing the conference in. So excited about that. David says, I'm an evangelist, not attending to a real church, and I'd love to go to VR church, no matter who's preaching. And so, yeah, I know there's a rotation that comes around. There was let me get Tonic actually added a response back here. And so the question I asked Tonic directly was, if you were not at VRMMO, would you be attending a physical church? No, was his response not a year ago. God reached me where I was online through VRMMO Church. Now that I've grown a little, I'm only now able to start looking for a physical church. We'll see what God has in store. And
yeah.
that's a great answer.
There's and there's a reason we do Saturdays, not Sundays,
To free up
in
people to
Final
have the
Fantasy.
ability. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Do
Hmm.
you, is there do you have a trend or one off where people will connect? Are you helping give people courage to engage on Sunday? Like, are you seeing that happen through it, or is that something you're striving to do, Pastor Coco?
It's not my main goal. My main goal is to disciple people and get them
Okay,
closer to Jesus and to step into their callings. And whatever the Holy Spirit leads them to do is what
interesting.
I want them to do.
Yeah.
And I
Y-
don't care whether they go physical or digital.
It's the Holy Spirit's job to convict. It's God's job
It's
to
their,
judge.
yeah.
Your job to love, and so
And
love
it's
that.
their job to go wherever he sends them. And if he sends them digital, then go digital. There's
Interesting.
a lot of people who can't find a safe church in their local community. So,
I love this.
yeah.
This has
Mm,
been.
mm, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead. Go.
Oh, I was just going to mention Zeke, who came and served alongside us for years. And he's recently stepped away to go to a physical church. which we were so excited that he finally found, because over the years he's wanted to go, but he couldn't find one that was right for him. And 5 years later, he found this particular church that really serves him well. And I'm just so excited. That meant that he stepped back from volunteering. I still see him from time to time. But I'm just as excited if I lead you to a place where you're supposed to be, or if this is where you're supposed to be, or as long as you are going where God is leading you, that excites me, even if it is away from us.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Sad, but still, I'm
well,
happy and excited.
well said. And and if God uses you to help people reconnect with a physical ministry, I mean that's a kingdom win. If God uses you to
Yeah.
help plant another church in virtual reality or MMO, or I mean that's a win. If God helps you restore marriages, that's a win. And your friend Axel's agreeing here. Well said. Pastor D, are you interested in planting across different platforms? Yeah, we had talked about that. I mean, you got a couple apostolic women here that are ready to go. The biggest issue is really helping or finding leaders
People.
to kind of come alongside. I'm not putting
Hmm.
words in your mouth. That was kind of the
Yeah,
big
that's it.
challenge on
Yeah.
that, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Was that
exactly.
he enables also from VRMMO. No, I'm sorry, from Oasis coming in. Man, we're getting the VR crowd coming on for this stream. Go where God is leading you. Rexy's with you, and she's even asking. I'm assuming she with the purple cat. Sorry, but why not expand to World of Warcraft?
Are you volunteering, Rexy?
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'd be interested.
That's the issue.
I actually, it's a fun story. I was on a plane flight a while back, and ended up striking up a conversation with a couple of the women who were sitting next to me, and they were devs for Blizzard. Blizzard is World of Warcraft, right? Am I getting
I
the
think
company
so.
right? Yeah. And so actually, hey, Rezzy's owning it.
Rexy
Rezzy
says
says,
yes.
yeah, Rexy says yes. She's volunteering. So
Uh,
follow up on that on Discord. But
yeah.
I was having I'm pretty sure Blizzard. That was whatever company did World of Warcraft. I'm pretty sure Blizzard. But they were devs for Blizzard, and they had worked on World of Warcraft. And like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh yeah, I know World of Warcraft. I am not the face of somebody who should look like World of Warcraft. And so they were like, how do you know that? And I said, oh yeah, we work with organizations that plant churches and video games and whatever. And their heads were exploding. You're doing what? In where? How does that work? And they were so excited. I've got their phone number. I gave their Discord to my kids because they were like, oh, we'd love to talk with your kids about whatever. And anyway, it's fun things. All right, hey, this has been a great stream. We went a little longer but just love the conversation at hand and a lot of engagement, and so appreciate the work that you all are doing in VR and MMO. It doesn't sound like the metaverse is dead, not yet anyway. But we're gonna keep plugging away and seeing what God's doing in the space to come. But as we're landing the plane here, any closing thoughts? Pastor Lena, you want to go first?
Oh, as you said, it doesn't seem like the metaverse is dead, not yet anyway. Um, it just sparked to mind how my passion lies with quality and not numbers. So if I can serve a few people really well, leading to action and life change with a few people, versus just standing up there talking and what with many people, I would choose the few people who are making real life changes, any day, every day. um, and so I'm happy. I'm happy with where we are. Like it would be difficult with more people. of course, getting that support of other people stepping up into leadership, then that is, would be possible. But as we stand today, where we are is where we're supposed to be. Like, I believe, God is sending us some really interesting tests or refinement period for us. Coco, Pastor Coco, you and I were talking about. There's this sense that there are these things that we must handle well, um, to go on, whether that means new platforms or growth or some wonderful change in the church. But we've got to handle where we are well first. Um, and so I'm just very happy with where we are. Is what I wanted to say. And it's been an amazing opportunity that I never in my wildest dreams could have ever imagined. Really,
Yeah,
seriously.
yeah,
Like Coco
I
said,
love how
what,
it's,
Pastor? Huh?
yeah, I mean, we kind of glossed it over, but it extended your ministry career. You've got the health issues, unable to leave the house much, and leaning into virtual reality. I mean, really just opened up a world of ministry opportunities as a result. And so, love that that opportunity that you've had to reach and disciple people in the unique space. And so, Pastor Coco, on your side, any closing thoughts?
Um, you can make a difference. It doesn't matter what you've been taught, what you've been told. You can make a difference, and you're called to make a difference. And
Yeah,
God will empower you to do what you've been called to do.
yeah,
And for those of you that are wanting to get into ministry in the digital space, another thing that we didn't, that came up while you were talking, that I wanted to point out was in the digital space, which is different than physical space, in that you've got a lot of people in with trauma everywhere, but the ones that are not going to physical church and can only feel safe in digital spaces is because there is a barrier between them and the other human. And so that barrier makes people feel safe because they don't have the fear of somebody physically attacking them for whatever reason.
hmm,
And so I feel that because I have trauma too. And I feel that safety when there is a physical barrier between me and other people. Yes, I do still talk to real people in real life, but that barrier is a sense of safety for people who've been through trauma and do not feel safe going to a pastor, which is mostly going to be a male pastor IRL, especially if they're female and they've been traumatized by men. They don't feel safe
right.
going to a pastor within a private meeting with a pastor alone physically, but you can digitally. And we also need more women to help those women. So,
Yeah. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
top to bottom on all that. There's a level of almost we're saying relearn, but there's a little bit of and I'm going to use a buzzword. There's a little bit of deconstruction that's involved, and I don't mean deconstructing faith, because I don't know that I'm talking about reimagining who God is or anything to that. God's the same yesterday, today, and forever.
you
What we're
could have been
deconstructing.
taught a wrong
Yeah.
character of
I
God.
mean, what I'm actually suggesting is, examine the practices that you are operating under, and are they biblical or are they extra biblical? Are they scripture or is it outside of scripture? And by the way, what you should be listening to is the Holy Spirit. In that,
Hmm.
God does speak through experiences. God does speak through the past. God speaks through Scripture. God speaks to people around you, and so be open to maybe deconstructing some of these things, and look and seeing. Henry Blackaby said this back in 1976. This quote's actually older than I am. Look and see where God is moving, and join Him in His work. And then he said something to the extent of, if everyone set aside their selfish ambition and vain conceit and joined where God is moving, the world would be changed forever. And so God is moving that was actually a very profound quote. I say that all the time. But if we would actually set aside some of our extra biblical preferences and seeing, hey, by doing some things digitally and virtually and MMO and all this stuff, like we can reach people that are church hurt, that are asking questions, and be comfortable with hard questions that we have to work through. Like that's what a great challenge for us as people of God to maybe embrace the MMO, to embrace the virtual reality, embrace this metaverse as the mission field that it really is. And so, yeah, VR Tiger, my quote drop. Yeah, thank you. I'm done. Give credit to what was it? Experiencing God, Henry Blackaby. That's all, Henry Blackaby. But we're done. An old white man. And actually, I wrote a blog. It was interesting. It was Henry Blackaby's view of the metaverse. Henry Blackaby died before the metaverse actually came about. But looking at Experiencing God, his view of how like the metaverse could work in that was incredible. And so let's do this. Somebody call Rexy and get Rexy Ronan started on World of Warcraft Church, because I want to interview Rexy like sometime in the next 12 months and get an update with what's going on at WoW Church. And, Susie will probably be going to get involved in that too. But we're going to land the plane. So Pastor Coco, Pastor Alina, thank you for jumping on this stream. Love it. I wish we could keep going, but I got to go. So we're going to land the plane. For Pastor Coco, for Pastor Alina, this is Jeff with theChurch.digital. Thanks for hanging out with us. We see you next time on the show. Y'all have a good one.